What's going on, guys? I'm back with another one. And I just watched a movie called Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, starring Jason Momoa, of course, it's a given. Patrick Wilson. I wanted to say Patrick Ewing. I don't know why. And Yahya Abdul Mateen the second. And I got it right on the first try, because that's not what I did on the first try in the other movie that I announced his name on. All right, so that's amazing. That's amazing. First of all, I've noticed lately there's been some kind of black villain craze going on. I mean, in this comic book world that we live in, nothing but black villains. There hasn't been a white or another villain besides a black villain for about a good minute, like a good while. All right, I'm trying to figure out what they're doing. What is going on here? Is this a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Should we be happy that we're getting more parts just as villains and that's it right now? Or is there something else deeper going on here? I just don't know. But my first example would be Killmonger from Black Panther 1. Yeah, he was actually a good villain. He actually made sense with the movie, and he was the only thing that was good about it for the most part. I not no disrespect to anything that Black Panther did in that movie. You know who I'm talking about, all right? No disrespect to that. But at the same time, if it wasn't for Killmonger in the film, I don't think I would even like it a little bit at all. I'm sorry. It depends on what other villain they try to choose. Like I'm telling you, a villain is the best part about some of these comic book movies. It's the strong part. It's the spine to the movie. You just can't escape that. All right. Then later on down the line in that same year of 2018, Manta from the first Aquaman movie. Man, let's just put it like this. Manta couldn't even make it through half the movie. He got his ass kicked before the rest of the movie could even drop. The rest of the movie couldn't even drop completely, and he was already done. He was already sitting around, curled up with his tail tucked in. Wonder what he was going to do. All right? He couldn't even survive it. I'm not a big fan of Manta. I'm not. And this is before I tell you what I think about this movie. Just saying, I'm not a big fan of Manta. He seemed weak. All right? His Aquaman's brother was more of an interesting villain in the first movie than he was. What the hell? What the hell? Okay, so that really didn't work. It really didn't work. They're just putting Manta in there because he's part of the lore for the comic book of Aquaman. He's one of his biggest villains, I guess. Whatever. A scuba dive man. That's his name, Scuba Dive Man. That's what he is. Come on. Then in 2019, Brixton Lore from Hobbs and Shaw came out. Brixton Lore, honestly, was a good villain for the movie that he's in. We know what it is. This is from the Fast and Furious franchise. Okay, so it's the exaggerated action scenes, the corniness, the cheesiness. All right, the overdoing it on a lot of things, and he just kind of fit in with it. He was actually more of a creative villain than I thought they would make for that movie, because they really don't have creative villains sometimes. It's just horrible. All right, so he did a good job of doing what he does. He's a half man, half machine. Really, there's no way they should have beat him. Even with the both of them teaming up, I don't care how big The Rock is or how strong he is or whatever. Of course, the old boy that plays Transporter, you know what I'm talking about. He's gone. He should have been gone real quick. And Rock should have lasted about a max of 2 seconds. Longer than the other guy lasted. All right. Shouldn't have been all that. But so he still did a good job at what he did as a villain in that movie. All right. Good so far. Good so far, right? Later on down the line, 2021, Kang was introduced through Loki season 1. It was kind of a subtle introduction. He just did a lot of talking and crazy talk and and all this other junk that he was doing. I don't know, he's trying to be the Black Joker or whatever he was doing, but he was really crazy and cuckoo in that show, and he really didn't do a lot of physical stuff. So I mean, I guess more was to come down the line because there's a lot more variants of Kang, of course. So I didn't give him a mark yet until later on when he came out in Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania. Now, this is where he was supposed to shine because this was the Kang that really was about to put the hands down on somebody. All right. And for the most part, he was intimidating. I give him that. His powers are crazy. He was very intimidating. He was the controller of time, all that until it got to the end of the movie. And we were wondering how. We wondered how. How did Ant-Man do this to Kang of all people? Was there something behind that? Was there more to it? Was there going to be more to it? Sadly, we'll never find out because the man himself, Jonathan Majors, got let go. He got let go. And I call foul on that still. I call a little bit of foul play on that. But they're going to replace him with somebody else to play Kang. Another black person. It's just weird. Yeah, they're going to do that. And you know, Jonathan Majors is no longer in the lineup of that role. Okay, so that's just all strange. At the same time, he didn't even end out good. His whole thing wasn't even good coming out of that. So that's another mark, not a star, another mark, just like Manta. Okay, it only gets worse because in 2023, High Evolutionary from Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was on the scene. Now, actually, let me digress on this. It didn't get worse because it gave us hope. High Evolutionary was actually a very deep villain. He was a very deep villain. This man created Rocket, and then he despised his own creation. He was jealous of his own creation. What kind of hating is that? That's some old new age hating right there. It's great. It's ridiculous how he came off at that, but he played a very good role in doing that. This guy was the alien thing on Peacemaker, the show, before he got on here, and he did a good job on that. He was kind of a villain, not really, but kind of was, but not really. But still, you know, he did his job. He did his job, what he was supposed to do. And he also did his job on this movie. Okay, so he's got another star added to the black villain craze thing that's going on right now. He kind of helped it out. He's like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing with this. I guess I see it. I guess, I don't know. Whatever. So, you know, he put it back up on the mark. All right. Then later on down the line in that same year, Baxter Stockman came out. I know this is like a jump from the Marvel stuff, but I'm not just doing Marvel. Obviously, this was on Ninja Turtles, the new sucky one. And yes, that was a horrible choice. Ice Cube as Baxter Stockman. Wow, yes, funny. It was funny. I'll give it that. He just pretty much repeated the same stuff over and over again throughout the entire movie. The same lines. He didn't change his lines up. Who was the writer for this? Ice Cube's a writer. Ice Cube is a writer. Yes, in rap music, but he still writes. Why are the lines looking like that? Why was he saying stuff like that? It was stupid. It was stupid. Okay? Last but not least, we have Dar-Benn from the Marvels. Yeah. The worst one to boot. The worst one yet. It just was about nothing. There wasn't even an original character in the comic books. Color or race. I mean, color or gender. Neither one was right. Okay. She had somebody else's weapon. All right. She wasn't original with the weapons. All right. And she just, her motive for it was so-so. It was okay. It was okay. All right. Other than that, not good. Not good. And now we have Manta back once again for the part 2 session. And my question is, will he get a star for this whole black villain craze thing? Or is he going to be a big mark? We're about to find out. Let's go. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. For those that are not aware. Oh, man. If you don't know about this movie by now, you have serious problems. Because you're going to know about this movie whether you want to or not. And I can understand you're trying to avoid it because of what happened in part 1. But you can't get around this. You can't get around this film. It's not possible. You just don't play that game with me. You know about this movie, all right? Unless you've just been trapped under the water for a long time and you're dealing with that. Other than that, you know. Don't play me. Don't play me. Don't do that. Don't do that. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. I almost said something else. Pretty much about Aquaman coming off from part 1, of course. All right. Now he's actually the actual king. He has the girl. He has the kingdom. There's something interesting about that I'm going to mention later on. Don't worry. And, someone's still big mad. Someone's just still upset and can't take it. All right. You know who that is. Manta. Manta wants revenge so bad. Okay. To the point where he stumbles upon something, or his workers stumble upon some kind of tomb in the ice and underwater of some demon who's going to give Manta his second chance. He's going to say, I'm going to let you get revenge on Aquaman. Just let me possess you. And that always turns out well. Let me possess you. And, with us combined, we can get Aquaman and we can take over the world if we want to. And so Manta falls for that crap. All right. And then he lets him enter him. Not like it sounds. For the soul. Right. And now Manta is on a quest to defeat Aquaman. And Aquaman must team back up with his brother, who was locked up in some sand tomb far from Atlantis, just to fight Manta. And that's the plot to the movie. All right. Positives. This was funnier than the first one. I will give it that. Part 2 is funnier than part 1. I don't really remember part 1 being all that humorous. I'm sure Momoa add some jokes in there. He always does it somehow. Wasn't good enough. And I'm not really looking for a comedy with my comic book movies. Not really, but you got a little humor in there. I don't mind a little bit of humor, not just overdoing it. And in this movie, they didn't really overdo it, which is good. I mean, there's some jokes that were solid. That was solid to me. There is one joke that threw me off guard, and that was a joke that Manta made by himself, where he said, "Oh, you took his kingdom, and then you took his girl? Shame, shame, shame." And I did not realize until I saw that movie that Aquaman did take his brother's girl and the kingdom. That was his girl. He never expressed any anger about this at all. He never even brought that up. He never even brought that up in the movie. That's crazy. I didn't even realize that. Another positive. I enjoyed the scenes when they arrived on Necros. Necros is some kind of land. Well, it's really underwater mostly, which was where the tomb of the demon's supposed to be at. But above water, everything was bigger than it was supposed to be. Everything was like a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids type level big. All right, the bugs, the animals. There was a big rat carcass sitting on the ground, and it was huger than Aquaman and his brother. That was crazy. Okay, they had to run from the bugs that were chasing them, that were eating the rat. I don't know why they were running. They had superpowers. I don't know why they were running. But I enjoyed that whole scene because it just took me back to some earlier days of when movies actually had creativity to them. like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, but just a better version of it. All right, with warriors and action in it, actually. And so I did enjoy the scenery and everything about that part right there. Okay. Last positive. Manta was slightly more of a threat in this film than he was in part one. Slightly. And his character had a slight edge of interest to it than part one because he's possessed by somebody else. He's possessed by a stronger demon than he could ever imagine to be. All right, so his whole crazy level it skyrocketed. He was already not wrapped tight in the head. This guy is mad. His father got killed by Aquaman, and in just a messed up way too. Just kind of cold. It's what it is, man. But he couldn't take it, and that demon entering his soul just didn't help at all, man. It made for an interesting character within him. Other things still were not right. We'll get to that in a minute. We're going to get to that in a minute. But for now, it did add some interest to the whole threat level of Manta. He was a little more intimidating. He was off his rocker. So that kind of helped with the development of his character. A little bit. Just a little bit. All right. First, negative. Once again, the CGI for a DC movie just didn't come through. It just didn't work for me. And now, let me explain something. When you go down under, just like part one, the CGI in the Atlantis was decent. It was decent, to say the most. All right. Here we go with part two. They're adding a little more characters to it from Atlantis. We get to see more characters, other like kings and whatever, and rulers or whatever is going on with that. Fish people and stuff like that, which would do good for a Disney movie. Yes, it would. But when you add the humans to the whole recipe of this, it just doesn't look right. It doesn't look right. It doesn't mix. Come on, man. Warner Brothers, this is what they're produced by, right? Warner Brothers, you've been around for over many decades, over a decade, past 1 decade, most definitely, 2, 3, 4 decades, the beginning of time. And you can afford to make the CGI blend with real life, with the real actors. You can't make it look right. It doesn't look right. It doesn't look right. You don't know what you're doing. It's unprofessional and bad looking. Like you just did the first movie. I don't understand that. It doesn't make sense in the slightest that they would do this with CGI. It was horrible. Another negative. The acting did not improve. It didn't improve on part one. It hasn't improved yet. This is sad because you had some supposed to be top-notch actors on here. Now, Jason Momoa, as far as a deep actor, he hasn't really done that like that yet, but it's been too long. He's been in the game too long to not have brushed up on his acting chops. That goes for Wilson Mark or whatever his name is, Patrick Wilson. He's been in other movies that were not superhero movies, that were serious dramas. He's done better than this. I don't understand why everybody is talking like robots and have as much emotion as one. It doesn't move me. It didn't move me with the acting. All right, the villain, he couldn't even. I'll give it this. The villain, Manta, he probably was the one that was trying the most, and still, I have to talk about that later on. Okay, but still, no. And we know the other one. The one that likes to wet the bed. Or whatever she does. She likes to soil the bed. Why is she in the movie? Why is she still in this movie? Why is she getting work? Why is she getting work, man? Anyways, another negative for the charts. I could see where the dynamic of, Aquaman and his brother was going with this movie, and it felt like they were trying to emulate what Loki and Thor had in their movies. All right, it did not do a good job of that. I'm gonna just put you right. I'll let you know right now that it was not a good job of what we got with Loki and Thor. Now, I mean, this might be a shocker that maybe they weren't going for that. I could have been fooled, but maybe they weren't going for that because, granted, Aquaman's brother is not the same person as Loki is by any means. Like, the only difference is they were once a villain. Now I guess they're going to be good. Okay, they're trying to be good now. That's it. Loki had way more cunning to him. He was manipulative, very manipulative. All right, a better actor. It's just he had more of the villain vibe to him than Aquaman's brother, by far. So that whole dynamic y'all are trying to get going, if that's what y'all are going for, it didn't work. It did not work. Now, if that's what y'all were not going for, I'd like to be notified about this. Let me know what y'all are going for. Somebody tell me what they were going for, having them team up like this. When I think Aquaman could have handled that another way if he wanted to. He didn't really have to get his brother out of the tomb. I don't think so. But, for movie purposes, they did this. And they were trying to emulate Loki and Thor. Don't argue with me, all right? Last negative. May you never bring Manta back to the Aquaman franchise ever again. Never do this again. All right. Yes, I said Manta had developed as a threat a little bit earlier, right? Yeah, that's the only thing he did. When it came down to the last fight, it was so quick. It was so quick. Now, with this man getting the new developed powers because he's being possessed by a demon, you think that this is going to be a battle royale. This is going to be the battle of battles in the film. I was waiting to see this. I was like, okay, we got the same villain from part one, kind of. He brought him back. So let me guess, they're going to improve him as a villain, right? Because if they don't, we're just seeing the same thing we saw in part one, but a longer stretch of it. And it's kind of what we got in part two. All right. When they had that last fight, I've seen better last fights. I'm not saying it was horrible because DC's always gonna show and improve with their fights, but it was really quick. It was really quick. I needed to see a part in here where we thought, oh no, I don't think Aquaman's gonna make it. I didn't get that. There was no threat at the end. All that crap Manta talked, and that's what you did. You got handled quick. I'm going to have to go ahead and give this an I. Yes, an I. That entire fight at the end is what sealed the fate. It sealed the fate with this movie and what I was going to think about this movie. I mean, I'm telling you right now, Manta is the cause of this movie getting the rating it got. Okay, don't blame anything else. Manta. If Manta had better development in everything, not just, oh, he's more intimidating now. No, not just that. If he could walk the walk with the talk that he talked, it would have been a better rating than what it was. You better press that like button, share it, subscribe.